All right, so welcome you all to FEA and Gilman. If you're watching this later on, please send us an email at ncs@ung.edu. Pretty easy. We're the Nationally Competitive Scholarships Office. All right. The two scholarships we're going to talk about are Fund for Education Abroad and Gilman. These are not particularly onerous scholarships. They are ones that reward you for being who you are. They are ones that reward you for being authentically you, whoever you are, whatever that means. They're not going to punish you for bad grammar. They're not going to punish you for bad word choice. Okay, that's not to say they're easy. They're just very supportive. All right. And we can talk more about those after, but I want to get away from this microphone. And I want to introduce our student who is here to talk a little bit about this experience, because Hyunbean Park went, where did you go?
Georgia, country of Georgia.
The other Georgia. He ended up in the other Georgia. And he had, I would like to suggest, a really wonderful time. So, Hyunbean, would you mind introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about what you did?
Okay. Hey guys, hey to the people online. My name is Hyunbean Park. I studied abroad in Georgia. So it was 10-week internship, and 8 weeks I was in the military academy. So I'm a cadet. So my study abroad program was a little different because it was through global military engagement rather than the actual UNG civilian study abroad. But Gilman is, that's why I recommend Gilman, because it's very open type of scholarship for different programs and that fits your needs, and whichever program you choose, you can do it through Gilman. So I did 8 weeks in Georgian, like the military academy. They're part of like their West Point, and 2 weeks I was in the U.S. Embassy in Tbilisi working with the Office of Defense Cooperation. So I was working with all the humanitarian services for Georgia that was funded by U.S. government, or just any military agreements or military conferences. We were attending that, and I got to meet the Jordan Prime Minister, which is their head of their, I don't know, government, and met a lot of high-ranking or high, position Georgian government officials, and that was a pretty cool experience. And after that, I decided to kind of use this to influence people in North Georgia, or just my personal goal. So I applied as an intern in the State Department, and I started working today. So hopefully it goes well. But yeah, that's it. That's about it. And a little bit about myself. I was born in Korea, so I speak fluent Korean. Not because I'm smart or anything. I was just given that, And I also lived in Germany for 1 year, Frankfurt, and I've been living in US for about 10-11 years now. So I think people with foreign background or diverse background, I think Gilman is such a great way to express yourself, because when I was living as an immigrant, I didn't really have time to think about myself and my, personal hardships with adapting to the American culture, or my parents were working as an immigrant family, and it was very hard to see them most of the time, and that type of personal kind of battles, I kind of swept it under the rug. And when I applied for Gilman, that's when I was able to kind of go back and kind of express like, hey, this is what I went through, this is what I learned, and that previous experience really helped me. And I think that was really important for my paper. And I wish that I see some people, and I feel like you guys can have your own unique story that you can put in there.
How was the process of writing those essays?
So I think for essay-wise, like I think the biggest fear is just like the length, and then I see people like, oh, I want to study abroad, and they look at this scholarship and they're like, oh, it's like 1,000 word, three essays, and they're like, oh, maybe I should. But I feel like it's also a great way to really write about yourself and really get to know about yourself, because I didn't really think about myself, like I said, and when I went to Dr. Hightower's office and I was like, I don't know what to do, and we start to kind of brainstorm. I didn't just go to Google Docs and wrote, whole essay in one day. It took like, I guess, 2 to 3 months to really kind of gather our information. So went to her office, we just talked about the prompt and my experience, and then I started putting in draft, and it's like a cake, you get to do that type of process, and that really does help. And I think for our university, we are really privileged to have the National Competitive Scholarship Office, and also Dr. Hightower and Dr. Lin, Dr. Pito helped me so much to really express myself. So I think some people maybe have little doubts or fear about application process. I did too. When you hit submit, it feels like I should have done this, I should have done that, but I feel like UNG does really prepare you to really bring that story of your life to the essay. Hopefully that answered questions.
I didn't want you to plug me, but thank you.
Yes. No, I have to without Dr. Hightower, I wouldn't be here today. So, and Dr. Pinto, thank you.
Yeah. On the second reads, no, for sure. And the first reads. So one of the things that we do as the Nationally Competitive Scholarships Office is we do help you. I like to joke that I'm a toddler. When I read your essays, I'm a toddler, and I'm constantly reading it and asking, well, why? But why? But why? What's this? Tell me about this. What do you mean here? Right? And that does help, right? Because this is about your triumph story. You are the hero of your story. This is not about selling pain or anything like that. It's about helping you think through all the amazing things that you have done as a student, as a person, to get here and to this moment where you want to go abroad and you want to be at UNG and you want to do all these really cool things and change the world, right? I think that's so important. And Gilman and the Fund for Education Abroad, they ask you questions to really help you get at that. And that's what I mean by being authentic, right? You cannot write Hyunbean's story, only he could. I can't even write it, and I know it. Right?
For sure.
We all come to this as ourselves, right? And you want to be authentically yourself. That sounds really hard to do, right? Because on the one hand, right? What were the early drafts like?
It was just like small ideas, and it was hard to put some words and expand it. And like Dr. Hightower says, she constantly asks, "What do you?" Because you gotta know that people who read your Gilman essay have no idea, so they don't have any background knowledge or any information about you. So you have to really explain your your thought process and what you really want to share. So when I started that initial process, it was more like I kind of wrote it as I skipped through certain detailed part, and then just if some stranger just read my paper, it wouldn't be like, oh, I can relate to that, or I can see that progression because I skipped some points. So when I talked to Dr. Hightower, and she's like what she said, she asked why expand this or describe this, I start to add more chunks in there, and it became like, oh wow, I can definitely see how I progress from this struggle or this learning lesson or anything like that. So just don't get frustrated with the initial process, because it's so easy to get frustrated because when someone revises your paper and it has some marks and or comments, it might think oh, it's because I might have a bad part of the story, or I didn't write this too good. But she's writing it, or whoever's revising is writing it because they really like this point, but they want you to expand it more and make it more clear, so that when you apply for Gilman, people in Gilman in the scholarship reads your paper, you can definitely see the whole point. So don't be discouraged initial process. I know some days will be like, oh, you know, this is really hard. I'm discouraged to do this, but if you spend time and stay committed, I feel like each one of you guys will definitely be eligible to write such a great paper, even better than mine, I feel like. And so don't get discouraged by initial, you know, type of, I guess, revision. It will take a couple, I mean, no one's really, if you can get down to one go, I think that's impossible.
Please.
Yeah.
No, because we get the same, we feel the same way. We're like, oh, we just want it to be done. Like, you know, you just like, I just want it to be done. Even as a reviser, right? As someone who's trying to help, I want you to be done. I know you all have so much going on in your lives, right? I want for you to be done, but man, I really also need to know what this is. And that can be discouraging, but we try to, when we do give feedback, it's all in the hopes of making it stronger and making sure that whoever reads it understands your story and it resonates with them in on an emotional level, right? Not in like they're all crying. Let's not do that. That trauma is probably not, right? We don't want to traumatize the evaluators, but certainly that they feel invested in you, in your case, right? Invested enough to fight for you. Because in the evaluation process, a bunch of us get into, well, in this case, a Zoom room, because it's still a pandemic. We get into a Zoom room, and then we talk about all of the scholarships that are in our pile. And we have somewhere around 50. And so you really do want someone who can fight for you, and you want to give them everything they need to fight for you. The thing I loved about Gilman, and I'm going to hijack for a minute, I got the opportunity to read Gilman at a national level, right? So obviously we get to read all the UNG stuff, but to read at a national level, and every time I read an essay, I was like, I know someone who could write this. This is so-and-so's story or something really close, right? But also the number of awards that they have to give out is actually quite high. Right, and so we had like 50 in my pile for my meeting, and we recommended 35 people. That's a really high recommendation rate, and it's because Gilman really does try to help you all, right? Give you something, right? Give you what you need. You might not get, right, all $5,000, $6,000. You might not get the critical language full. If you're doing a critical language, you might not get the full amount, but you're going to get something. And that's what they're aiming for, is the maximum benefit for the maximum amount of people. If that makes sense. Right. Anything else you want to add?
I feel like Gilman is such a great introductory to your, I guess, study abroad, or because I didn't really know anything about the State Department or the foreign affairs until I got Gilman. And when you're Gilman Scholar, you join the network, and then network with people who are Gilman Scholar or alumni, and you can talk to alumni about tips or just advices. And they have like a separate job board. You can apply to internship. That's how I got my internship at State Department. So I feel like it's such a great way to start your, I guess, if you're interested in foreign policy, or whether that's just you're interested in being a diplomat, or you can just go. I mean, Gilman is really like, it's your own, scholarship. I mean, you study abroad plan. So if you're a different major like science, if you want to research here, you can apply Gilman, or like military like me. It's very diverse, and it's very flexible. So I feel like it's a good introduction for anyone. So I really want you guys to really apply for this one, particularly because there's so many ways to do it.
Can we open it up for questions? Do any of you have questions online or here?